Lesson 4, welcome to the Rumble. This is where we're going to get really serious about this process. We've talked about the reckoning, the importance of recognizing when we've been snagged by emotion and then getting curious about it. Now we're going to talk about what we do with that curiosity. How do we dive into the work? It is not an exaggeration to say that the sentence, the story I'm making up, has been fundamentally shifting in my life. That sentence has floated around probably for the last decade in my research. People have used some variation of that to talk to me about when they're in struggle, when they're in conflict, when they're experiencing failure. They would say things like, I know in my head this was going on, or I was telling myself this, and I didn't pay much attention to it until I got to the Rising Strong research, where every single participant who showed a deep capacity for coming out of a fall used some variation of that sentence when they were talking to me about their process, the story I'm making up. And it goes back to what we talked about in one of the very first lessons, which is when something difficult happens, our brain scrambles to make sense of it in order to keep us safe. The brain has very little tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. What the brain wants is a story that gives us good guys and bad guys, safe people, unsafe people, very binary, good, bad, yes, no. So we make up a story, we give it to the brain, and we get rewarded. We have a sense of, got it, okay, aha. The problem is the reward comes when we hand the brain a certain story, a story without very much ambiguity. The reward comes regardless of the truth of the story. So let me give you an example to add to my HubSpot tweet disaster. I'm in a meeting with my leadership team. It is a long Mongo honkin' meeting. We're going into like hour 3, which everyone watching this right now knows what it's like to be in a meeting that goes way too long. We have 4 or 5 agenda items left, and I look down at the back page of the agenda and I'm like, you know what? Let's just finish where we are and take all these other things off the agenda for today. And so everyone kind of agrees and we start wrapping up what we're talking about. And then like 5 minutes into this wrap up, one of the leaders on my team says, I'm sorry, I need to stop us for a second. And I was like, what's going on? And he looked at me and he said, the story I'm making up right now is that you're taking the agenda items off the agenda because these are no longer pressing issues for you. They're not important issues. And if they're not important priorities for the company, that's okay. But I'm spending 90% of my time and resources on these right now, and so I need to know. So let's stop in this minute and let's think about this for a second. First, how much courage does it take to stop a meeting and look at the person that you work for and say, the story I'm making up right now is that you don't care about these issues, and that's why you've pulled them from the agenda, and I need to know if that's true or not. Because let me tell you the alternative to that, and every one of us has done this. You sit in the meeting for the final 10 or 15 or 30 minutes, ticked off, resentful, and you don't hear a thing that's going on. You don't contribute, you don't respond, you don't participate because you're stewing. But in our culture where we work, we don't do that. And so he stopped it and said, here's what I'm making up. The most amazing thing happened because I was able to look at him and say, thank you for stopping us and saying that, because here's what's really going on. These are still the most important priority in our company, and I don't want to try to squeeze them into an exhausted final 25 minutes. They need their own meeting, their own space, and their own time because they're important. But the ability for him to stop and say, here's what's going on, here's what I'm making up about what's happening, not only, in my mind, changed the course of that meeting and clarified our priorities, but it was an example of absolute leadership to me. This is uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it because it's important, and it's the right thing to do, and I need clarity. The alternative, let me give you another story, work story. Michonne, I'm going to use you for this. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Michonne and I are in a meeting, and we're presenting a new idea for a new course to the team. And we walk out of the meeting, and I look at Michonne, and I say, oh my God, that was a great meeting. And Michonne looks at me and goes, oh, and walks into our office. Immediately, I'm going to make up a story. And here's where I would go personally. Okay, wow, she's pissed off. I must have said something in that meeting that really ticked her off. You know what? I knew she didn't like me. I was wondering, I thought for a while maybe she didn't like me, but now I'm sure she doesn't like, she doesn't even think I have good ideas. That's what's going on right here. She didn't even like me. She didn't think I have good ideas. You know what? Screw Michonne. No. This is, then I walk in my office and here's how it plays out in organizations around the world. I pick up the phone and I call my friend, hey, Brad, Brene, what do you think about Michonne? And here it goes. Yes or no, here it goes. So let's play it out a different way. Let's play it out where Michonne looks at me and goes, oh, and walks into her office. And I go back into my office and I'm like, what was that? She like growled at me. The reckoning. Okay, I'm feeling kind of frustrated. I'm feeling pissed about that look she gave me. What is going on? I don't know what's going on. Hey, Michonne, do you have a second? Listen, can I ask you a question? And we were coming out of that meeting, and I thought it was a really great meeting. And you looked at me and I said, great meeting. And you kind of rolled your eyes and went, ugh. And I'm making up that I did something in the meeting that really ticked you off. Are we good? Or is there something we need to talk about? And she looks back at me and she said, no, I've told my sister 20 times, please, between 9 and noon, I cannot take calls. I'm in standing meetings every week from 9 to noon. Every week from 9 to noon, she blows up my phone. It makes me crazy. And then I'm like, oh my God, that happens to me too. It's like, I'm gonna start giving people the opposite time to not call, and then, and then that's it. And then I'm walking out of her office and knowing Michonne like I do, there's a 95% chance she'll look at me and she'll say, hey, thanks for cleaning that up, I appreciate it. How much courage does it take to look at someone and say, look, I don't know what's going on right now, but the story I'm making up is that this is happening. And I want to keep it clean with you. I want to know. Now, people always ask me this question. What if in this story, Michonne looked at me and said, yeah, I did roll my eyes. I'm so frustrated with you. You and I have talked for 3 months about not presenting this new course to the team until we were ready, until we had all this information. And then you're just sitting there blurting out the whole thing in front of the whole team. We didn't talk about it. We didn't plan. This is exactly what we said we weren't going to do. I'm super frustrated. That's still best case scenario because I still have the opportunity now to say, okay, crap. We did make that commitment and I completely blew it. I apologize. That's on me. I need to figure out a way to clean that up with the team. Let me think about it and I'll come to you and I'll run that idea by you to see if it works for you. And if it does, I'll take responsibility and own it and clean it up with the team. I'm really sorry. That's still best case scenario. It's cleaned up, it's honest, and we know where we stand with each other. For me, that's called integrity. Choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, and easy, and practicing my values, not just professing them. And that means hard conversations.